Lucky enough to have Wayne Bramwell in the studio with me. Wayne, thanks very much for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
We're in a new studio. The old one is next door and we will be still using that.
Respect. All of you people out here are keeping this economy going. So
Susie Urbanak and Christian Price, they are doing a phenomenal job, and I know
both legends.
Perth legends, absolutely, both legends.
And we are, if you like, the Silicon Valley of resources.
For sure.
Wearing high vis, which we're all proud to wear, and I think it is a badge of honour now.
That would make a bloody ripper gold processing plant.
Sure.
Why are they not doing it?
Does this mining thing look simple behind your spreadsheet? He goes, yeah. I said, you should get out of your Sydney office and come to an underground mine and see what goes on. These are high-tech businesses.
Was it a tearjerker for you, if you were honest?
I think I was.
I think it would be for me. I'm not an emotional bloke.
I told the people I was with that I had a bit of dust in my eye and I had to take my safety glasses off.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. This is a bloody special episode today. Lucky enough to have Wayne Bramwell in the studio with me. Wayne, thanks very much for coming.
Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Look, some of our viewers, our long-time viewers, will notice that we're in a new studio. The old one is next door and we will be still using that. We've been working on a cool little project in the background for the last probably 6 months. Just trying, Wayne, you know what it's like, trying to put all the pieces of a puzzle together to make things work really well. Takes time.
100%.
Right? You don't rush these things. So we're hoping to roll that out end of February, maybe the beginning of March, but it'll be fun and I'm sure people will enjoy watching it.
100%. I can't wait.
Beautiful. Mate, we always start with the life and the times. So let's really dig down into who Wayne Bramwell is and what led you to be the man and running the companies that you're doing today.
Wow. Thanks, Josh. That could be a long or a boring story. I'll try and make it short and interesting. Pretty simple. I'm a West Australian, proud West Australian, born here in Perth. I grew up here and fell into the mining industry in sort of in my 20s. Grew up in Willetton, mum and dad. Dad had 2 careers in his life. He started life as a butcher and later on bought a taxi and basically operated and owned a cab from about 1969 to the 90s. Mum worked for the RAC, so we were a pretty typical family, nuclear family, mum and dad, myself and one sister. Lived for most of our lives in Willetton, went to Willetton High School and really sort of probably like most kids in the 80s, fell into high school. The only thing I remember much about high school was I fell in love with surfing and all my friends, somehow we were into this thing, we're into surfing. And even though we lived, in Willetton, we weren't living by the coast, but all of us sort of started off riding, God forbid, surf mats. I'm not even sure they exist anymore, Josh, but, and then got to a point of buying boards and, many years later still doing it.
Did you got a job early years to be able to afford a surfboard, or how did you get that first surfboard?
Very much. I'm sort of lucky. I mean, the most valuable things that I think my parents gave me was a work ethic.
Beautiful.
As a young kid, even at sort of early days in high school, had part-time work. Worked on a Saturday at a butcher shop cleaning up, a lot of their utensils.
That was your first job, working with the old man, you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, on a Saturday cleaning up in the historic days when butcher shops had sawdust on the floor, sweeping up the mess, doing a lot of the backroom stuff, and then at the same time had a part-time job at the Fremantle markets selling Chinese food. So
Awesome.
I don't know. I mean, always managed, had a level of independence because worked part-time from a young age. So I think
that's very valuable, isn't it?
100%. We weren't a wealthy family.
Do you remember what age that was?
I reckon 1979, 1980. It would have been in those. So for me, it would have been early teens.
Yep. 13.
Yeah, I think would have been of that age. And I remember on a Saturday morning, I might have earned $10 for a morning's work, but I was the king. If you had $10, $10 used to go a long way in those days.
Then.
And in the days of having a passbook, earning $10, going to this is going to be things which are the young crew listening to this may have to Google, but then going to a building society to put the money into the bank and put them writing it in your passbook. Yep. I mean, there was some sense of achievement of seeing that balance grow, but that was all about, I guess, a work ethic and wanting to build something.
Yeah, beautiful.
Left Willetton High School, didn't really know what to do. And
Did you leave year 12?
Yeah, left year 12. Look, I knew I wanted to go to university. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Cool.
So I had this aspiration. None of the family had ever had any exposure to mining, and none of our extended family were exposed to mining. Didn't really have much visibility on mining at all at high school. It was just not something people spoke about. We were aware of the iron ore industry in those days, but that was about it. But in Willetton High School, there was no promotion of the sector. Fell into metallurgy at Murdoch, which lived in Willetton. The Murdoch University was close by, and I'm sure the proximity to where we lived was a bit of the motivation. But doing not enough research on metallurgy, what I did understand was this was an industry which would allow you to travel, which was the probability of employment was high because not many people did it, and at that stage Australia didn't have enough of those people, so they were importing them. So I thought, look, I don't really know what a metallurgist does, but it looks like it's a means to an ends to travel and some security over employment. And
were any friends getting involved in doing?
Not a one. So I'm happy to say that I remember year one at Murdoch in the Bachelor of Science degree in metallurgy. The other group of people who were there, we all had the same entry. Very few knew what it was about, and some might have thought they were doing a degree in meteorology, because people used to ask when we would say what we were studying. People would go, "Well, so do you know what the weather's going to be tomorrow?" Confusing metallurgy with meteorology, and we would make up. Sure, we can tell you what the weather is. It's got nothing to do with our degree, but all of the.
That's great for the surfing. That's great for the surf report.
Well, maybe there's a connection. Yeah. I don't know, but everyone who went into that degree that year, it was sort of very non-linear. No one had a great plan that this thing was a part of a grand plan. It was all sort of a happy accident for most of. So finished that degree. I was a terrible student, solid 51 or 52 student.
C's to get degrees?
It was like, I don't know. I probably like most people at that age, university was full of brand new distractions, which we leaned into big time, surfing and live music in Perth, where my friends and I were really into that, still are. There were so many.
You play any instruments?
No, God, no musical ability whatsoever, Josh, but
a
solid supporter of live music. But, so we probably took a little bit longer to complete that degree. But during that time, doing vacation work was a part of the program. And I guess that sort of gave me more of an insight into the sector. And
do you remember where you went to do your vac work?
First vac student job was with then Mount Newman Mining at Newman.
Okay.
And I remember going there for that summer going, wow, this is, next level. There was lots of parts of the business that I didn't really like. I mean, it was a very, at that stage, Mount Newman heavily unionised, and Mount Newman it was going through a transition. I thought, wow, this is really interesting, but this is a really big machine. I think the second vacation I did might have been at AMC Mineral Sands and Eneabba, completely different. And then also worked in gold at Darlow for a small Aussie junior at that stage. So that was the joy, I guess, of growing up in Western Australia. I mean, we are, if you like, the Silicon Valley of resources.
For sure.
Whatever commodity you want to work in, probably except coal, you can do it here. So it's a place where you can build a career in the sector.
And a great career.
Oh, and again, a diverse career because of the natural wealth within this state. So, on the journey, graduated as a metallurgist, went back into iron ore as a graduate.
So that was at Murdoch.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to go and do, so just the vac work was they send you, did you have to do that in your school holidays?
Yeah, 100%. So for those summers in between, you didn't have to do it, but it made sense. It was also an opportunity to network and actually earn some money. So as, even though during university I always had a part-time job, the summer break you could earn a big chunk of money in a small period of time and actually start to understand, iron ore, is that something I want to do long term, or gold? Is that something I want to do? So you got to try as an undergraduate, you got to try before you bought, and that sort of informed decisions about what you may or may not do when you graduated.
Yeah, beautiful. Is so from graduating university,
Yep.
where did you go to the next?
So
What was your first job?
first professional job post graduation was Goldsworthy Mining, which owned and operated iron ore mines around Port Hedland, Shea Gap, and Goldsworthy. I signed a contract with them in January this year, but didn't graduate till mid-year. And by mid-year, BHP had bought Goldsworthy. So I actually signed a Goldsworthy contract, and when I finally started in July, it was BHP. So yeah, worked in the process plant at Finnegan Island, which is a little loadout facility that still exists in Port Hedland. But that was at a time when Goldsworthy was being integrated with BHP. It was one of the oldest iron ore projects, one of the first that started in WA, so it had a long history. But it gave me an exposure as a young graduate to like to a large corporate, how they operate, and I think that probably coloured my view. Certainly informed my view of whether I'm a big company person or a small company person.
We've taken a relatively small company and built it into a large company yourself, certainly recently. Ooh. So all of those learning curves that you would have had early on certainly would have helped shape that.
And I think maybe jumping back to a story you just told me before we started, some of the most the best learning experiences are the most painful. And as a young graduate at that project, there's a lot of things that I took away of, maybe how not to do things later on.
Yeah. So your first look at a processing plant, what did you think?
That was at Mount Newman in the summer, and it might have been the summer could have been 84.
Good year, mate. Great year, actually.
Baking hot, standing on conveyors, 30 metres above the ground, shoveling bulk samples off a conveyor belt. Not sure you could do that today under the current work safe laws, but I thought, wow, it was like.
So they had lanyards?
100%. I don't remember having a harness and being tied to everything, but myself and the other student were shoveling 1 metre length samples of iron ore into 44-gallon drums.
Wow.
Which for test work. But my main takeaway from that summer was, wow, this industry, everything is big. It was a big open pit. The crusher was big. The processing plant was big. It was just for someone who in their, I guess, late teens, early 20s, was really hard to understand. Well, I was sort of blown away by the scale of the hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And I do remember seeing that pit and seeing a blast in the whaleback pit, going, wow, this is next level. This is not something that a boy from Willetton or many boys from Willetton are going to see, and I'm a part of it.
Yeah, beautiful. What a great start, mate. I want to get into industry leadership, and look, you have done amazing work, obviously, with Westgold, which we'll get into, but. Gold Industry Group.
Yep.
How do you find the time? Because you do, by all accounts, everyone I'm speaking to, you're doing a great job there.
Well, look, you're being too kind there, and let me just clarify something. There's a lot of people that came before me at Westgold who did, who had the idea and set this company up, and even today, I'm just one of the people there where the bulk of the heavy lifting is done by those people out there every day wearing high vis, underground or on the surface or in our processing plants. I mean, I'm in some sense, I might be have a grand title of CEO, MD, but they're the ones doing the heavy lifting. So in some sense, I work for them, and I'm really proud to have this role and to represent this company. And I get that pride now by going to site and seeing the pride in the workforce. And like in my journey as a more mature person, you go and see these young people, young and older people, but the young people coming through the sector, they are much more intelligent than I ever was as a young graduate. They've got a plan. I'm not sure I had it. I wouldn't even say I had half a plan. I knew where I wanted to go. Had no idea how I was going to get there, but I thought
winging it.
I thought, look, just keep moving. Momentum is the key here, and I see a very different approach in the workforce. But look, the leadership piece is really important, and even sort of jumping away from my day job at Westgold, the Gold Industry Group, I think it's really, really important. And for me, it's more about paying it forward or giving it back. The gold sector is something which, as a West Australian, most of us would know of but don't really understand. It doesn't have the profile of iron ore. Everyone sees ads on TV, BHP and Rio, but no one sees a Northern Star ad. But the sector is something.
Is that something Northern Star should be doing?
Look,
bit more TV advertising. Who's watching TV though? Wayne?
Well, this is it. I mean, 100%. I mean, I don't read a lot of the written press anymore, so I do it selectively. But I find myself now consuming content more so in formats like you're using, like podcasts. I spend more time consuming things that way, and very interested in different forms of promotion, of which I think the gold sector should do. I mean, fundamentally, what happens in gold, and with your background as well, there may be a perception out there that gold is a very low-tech business. Far from true.
Absolutely.
100%. But
absolutely.
But unless
it's used in all high-tech equipment everywhere. It's used in things that people have absolutely no idea about, and it's up to us so maybe Northern Star can be advertising on here.
and it's the real big companies like Northern Star and Evolution. They are doing some fantastic things around tech. I mean, the development of the super pit and what they're doing now with the big mill. Wow, whether it's power or that mill, there are some tech pieces there which a recent discussion with some Northern Star people, I thought, wow, these are stories that just need to be told, because it shows now that in our sector, data miners are as important as miners, underground miners, and there's the opportunity for young people coming into the sector. It's not all about wearing high vis, which we're all proud to wear, and I think it is a badge of honour now, because when I go to the airport now and see the masses of people queuing up in their underpants to go through the customs or through security, I go, look, respect. All of you people out here are keeping this economy going. So, but yeah, there's opportunities in this business, in this industry, which I think the Gold Industry Group is a part of, being able to tell those stories better. So, sorry, I went down a rabbit hole,
mate.
there, Josh.
That's what mate. Don't worry.
We're not good at telling the stories about this sector, and for many years, mining and maybe still parts of the society, mining is considered either a dirty word or has a negative connotation. I mean,
I think that's changing.
And it should do. I mean, we should be proud, all of us, to whether we're directly involved in mining or indirectly involved in mining, because mining has built this state. It's built our country. The farmer.
You took the words right out of my mouth. It's built this country.
Yeah, look, the farmers were important, but the days of Australia riding off the sheep's back, they're long over.
Yeah, and manufacturing went 30 years ago.
So
started to, and then it's gone.
And, I will tip out my hat, or our hat, to the energy guys and girls as well. I mean, they're important to that. But, gold was probably the first extractive industry of any significance in Australia. And, today, I think we are now the second or third largest export revenue earning industry. We've gone above coal, and, before we were lower down the pecking order, but now gold's contribution to Australia is in the top three.
Massive. Back to the Gold Industry Group.
Yep.
What are they?
Yep.
What are they doing
Yep.
out there, and to what age groups?
Sure.
Where is it starting? Is it at primary school? Because I know Core Learning Foundation, Susie Urbanek and Christian Price, they are doing a phenomenal job, and I know
both legends.
Perth legends, absolutely, both legends,
and their contribution in that space. Wow, I mean, and there's a story which may not be really well known, but full accolades to Susie and Christian in terms of the work they've done. And to your point, the Gold Industry Group and Core and others, the focus is multi-tiered. It's trying to change back to the point of how do we get society to better understand the contribution of mining. You've got to get at people at a young age. I mean, I look at my own experience. I remember seeing a gold mine. The first gold mine I ever saw was on a primary school trip. I'm going to say it was year 7. We went to the northeastern goldfields, and I remember as a kid, standing on the deck of the mine office at Great Fingall, looking into the hole. So as a year 7 kid, standing there going, "What the hell is this? This is the first mine I've ever seen." even then it was a big hole. And for those who know Great Fingall's mine office, it is a beautiful piece of stone architecture.
What a spin out, Wayne, that all those years ago you went to Great Fingall and now Westgold has Great Fingall.
It's one of those circle of life stories which I like to tell, and it occurred to me when we were committing to start Great Fingall, and I'm standing there close to the same spot, but as a much older person going, wow, I remember being here as a kid looking into this pit going, wow, this mining thing. What is it? This is a big hole in the ground. This mine office is a beautiful piece of architecture. Whoever built this thing loved it. What is the sector about? And then fast forward, let's say maybe 40 odd years to be standing there going, wow, we are now bringing this historic mine back online. I mean, there was a level of...
Was it a tearjerker for you, if you were honest?
I think I was.
I think it would be for me. I'm not an emotional bloke.
I told the people I was with that I had a bit of dust in my eye. I had to take my safety glasses off, but I'm going,
oh, that's
wow,
beautiful, Wayne. Wow.
Oh, shit. It was one of those moments you go, like, super proud, again, maybe as a West Australian, to think this is the last great reef mine in WA that's never, it operated up to the 20s. And here we are as Westgold, sort of bringing this, this thing back online, bringing it back into 2025 as it was when we started the work. I was proud for two reasons. Proud to have been a tiny part of that process, having seen it historically and being a part of the team that's bringing it back to life.
Beautiful. Mate, let's get into Westgold.
Go.
The transformative phase.
Yep. Yes. I was thinking about that today. Westgold today is 10 years old, and it started, I think its first day of listing was 2020, 2017, and it was a collection of assets both in the Murchison and the Southern Goldfields. And for the first 7 years, the team of people there, it was a really busy company. It was underground mining, it was open pit mining, there was a lot going on, and it had massive momentum. It was probably running too fast for its systems and procedures. And it churned a lot of people because it was really driven about production. Production was everything. By 2023, 22, it was producing a lot of gold but not making any money.
Why?
I think its focus was on production, and a lot of
overheads were just screaming.
A lot of it was to do with lack of drilling. I mean, it was a collection of mature assets which just needed more drilling, and with more drilling, you'd have more data and you could make better decisions. So it had a very short planning horizon because it lacked the drilling data that you needed, but it was mining.
But you would have been doing annual drilling programs, right?
Well,
but just not sufficient.
So I joined the board in 2020 as a non-exec, and then it wasn't investing the money it needed into drilling to make better decisions. And back then, never had that sort of surplus capital to do it. So it was a very hand-to-mouth business with a very short planning horizon. And that model is not atypical for some big companies or small. It only takes you to one place. It takes you to a place whereby if the commodity price changes, you're out of the game. So the gold price during those years was not solid, but it got to the point in 2022 where Westgold had produced the most gold it ever done, but that also lined up with its largest financial loss. For lots of different reasons, the employees plus the shareholders, that had to change. So there was a board and management change in 22, which went about resetting the business. So the transformation very quickly when I stepped in was, okay, what should we be doing? Our business is really complex. How do we simplify this business to make it profitable, to make it safe and profitable? Young people come into the business or new people, we have to get them to understand it's not production at all costs. We do not want production at all costs. It has to be safe and profitable ounces or we don't want them. Where I see the business now, it's gone from sort of transformation in the last 3 years to a place where Westgold now is it's a big business. It's got scale, it's stable, and it's now got a stable platform to build growth from. I think in the past, and we've all probably built something in our lives whereby if the platform if the foundations are weak, trying to stack things on top of it, you end up with a Jenga that falls over. Well, I think we've got this base now in this business and a base of assets, a base of a group of people who now can take this business to the next level.
I can't wait to watch. Let's get into portfolio. Portfolio focus.
Yep.
I did see the other day that Westgold sold off something or started like a sister company or something. It's Venturi. What?
We did both.
Okay. What's it called?
So we've got doing a spin out now called Valiant.
Valiant
Gold. And remember that name.
Valiant Gold. Oh, mate, I will, and I'll make sure we chuck it up with the ASX ticker.
Yep.
The CEO that you're managing director that you've got in place is
Brendan Tritton.
Brendan Tritton, and I had him in the studio.
Fantastic.
With 6 months ago, when he was with Gold Mining Solutions. So you've picked him up, very smart, very bright young man. I do need to get him back into the studio. Obviously, we'll be able to talk about this new venture.
Sure.
He did, however, say that in the next 12 months at Gold Mining Solutions, they were going to add 50 staff. I thought, wow, that's crazy. So I'll be holding them to account. Yep. And if they don't make it now, then that'll be the reason they've lost the bloody head honcho.
Look, I'm sure he's still tight with the people at Gold.
He is.
Look, but now he's now running Valiant. It's his first outing as MD CEO, and he's got a really interesting job ahead. I mean, back to Westgold, people said, why is a gold company spinning out a gold company?
And explain that to me.
Yeah, so it's back to your point about portfolio. I mean, the portfolio of assets we've got in this business, Westgold, is enormous. In the last couple of years, we did something which has never been done, and we did a full portfolio review of everything we own to say, okay, what are the things we want to focus on, and what are the things we're never going to get to? And so what we had within the business, we thought, the real mantra is, what do we want Westgold to be? We want it to have bigger mills and bigger mines, probably fewer mines, but bigger mines. And then, we've got a group of second-tier assets which are small. We've currently got 3 small underground mines which are in care and maintenance. And when you look at them on a portfolio basis, you go, wow, some of these things are just don't have the level of production that we need with our overhead structure to be meaningful. So we're sitting here with these assets and the Comet Underground, South Emu Tritton Underground are the 2 prime examples where if we keep them in the portfolio, we may never get to them. We certainly won't get to them in the next 5 years. So the view was, how do we deliver value from those assets which currently are not valued in our portfolio? So the mechanism was, okay, those 2 mines are good mines, 20 to 30,000 tonnes a month underground mines, circa 3 grams per tonne. But for us, they're small. So how do we get that value out of those mines? And the concept was, let's give them their own life, put them into a new vehicle where we're a shareholder in.
Majority?
At IPO, we'll be the majority shareholder, but ultimately we won't be. I mean, ultimately, we want this thing to be very independent of us and have its own life.
Awesome.
So Valiant it's got its own board led by Derek Lafurla, who also the chair of Sandfire. Brendan will be the MD and 2 non-execs. But from day one at IPO, it starts with a group of assets between Kew and Meekatharra, 2 underground mines which just need to be dewatered and restarted, and access to our processing plants. So the whole concept of Valiant is it will be something independent of us, largely independent, even though we're a major shareholder. It'll run its own race, but it'll be well funded from the go-get with a portfolio of assets that it can develop. And any ore that comes from those assets, they have the access to our Tuckabianna or Meekatharra processing hub. So in my way of thinking, it's a really smart way of taking things within our portfolio which have negligible value and creating value for the shareholders and providing additional ore sources for our mills. So that's the whole idea of, the scale of mines that we are interested in are underground mines where production of more than 1 million tonnes per annum.
Yep.
These things are more like 300, 400,000 tonnes per annum. So better to have a much lighter jockey on those small assets and
still have people working on it.
100%. So again, Valiant will be a part of the making Meekatharra great again.
Yeah, awesome.
Along with companies like New Murchison.
Are you going to get a hat, mate? Are you going to get some hats, mate?
Yeah, I don't know. We've been tossing around some designs, but look, we're really excited about Valiant. I mean, the other thing we did in terms of simplifying their business, we sold some gold assets south of Norseman just before Christmas, the Mount Henry project to a little company called Alicanto.
And also the Lakewood processing plant to Black Cat.
Yep. We were very happy that with the deal with the Black Cats. I mean, it was
They're doing so well
for them. You know, in some sense, Westgold catalysed their transition from in the goldfields anyway, from explorer to producer. You know, what the missing part of that puzzle was a processing plant that they owned in the goldfields. Voila, Lakewood too small for us, too far from our ore bodies. That was the missing piece of the puzzle for them to transform their Kalgoorlie business.
That was a Karora asset, wasn't it, if I
100%.
remember correctly?
So when we bought Karora, Westgold ended up with a large processing plant at Higginsville, 1.6 million tonnes per annum, and this little 900,000 tonne per annum mill at Lakewood.
Yep.
But what the business we bought had was too much milling capacity and not enough mine output. So that factor was driving a mentality of volume over grade for Karora.
Yep.
So how do you switch away from volume to grade? Well, in that scenario, we remove the Lakewood piece. So now every tonne of beta hunt goes to, just about every tonne of beta hunt goes to Higginsville, a much lower cost milling platform than Lakewood. So for us, the decision to divest Lakewood was, we want to be milling our ore at $50 a tonne or $36 per tonne. Lakewood couldn't do it. Higginsville could, so that sort of drove the decision to streamline the portfolio in the south.
Beautiful. Mate, do you mind, I don't actually have this as a question, but I just know a little bit of history on it. Can we go into the beta hunt? It was a nickel mine.
100%.
Right?
For 50 odd years, it was one of the first most well-known nickel assets that Western Mining owned.
Yep. Now, I have this saying on this podcast. I say it a few times where we don't talk about, there's three main things we don't talk about. We don't talk about religion, we don't talk about politics, and we don't talk about bad quarterly reports. And the reason, and I always say the reason we don't talk about a bad quarterly report is because you're a bloody drill hole away all the time in mining. You're a drill hole away from it being an absolute terror.
100%.
Right? Now, and I use this analogy when talking to people outside of here. I say, think about beta hunt, the Father's Day find.
Sure.
Now, they were mining nickel, and then suddenly there's a blast, and it's a gold mine. So can you just get into that little story for me, mate? It's a little sideline.
Yeah, look, it's your point's well made there. I mean, you can create your own adventure in this industry in some sense as a explorer or a miner. If you're an explorer, keep exploring.
Yep.
As you say, one drill hole can be transformative for a company, and there's multiple examples of that. But as I understand the history of beta hunt at that stage, the owners at that time were just about out of money. They were financially very tight, and again, that Father's Day vein switched them from a nickel focus to a gold focus and allowed them to recapitalise the business, and away they went. Now, that company had changed its name to Karora by the time we got there, and during the beta hunt assets were hotly contested, as everyone will know. And by the time we got there, you could see what Karora were doing. The nickel industry wasn't quite over in WA. They were still producing a bit of nickel, which they were selling to Nickel West. They were selling nickel ore, and that was being processed at Leinster. But they very switched very quickly to gold. So why we love this beta hunt asset is it gives you optionality over two revenue streams. Certainly gold is where it's at the moment, and we're pushing this mine up towards 2 million tonnes of gold production over this period. Amazing. But we're not blind. We don't talk about it publicly because our focus is gold, but we are doing work on the nickel in that mine because
when it comes back,
the nickel
when it
inventory,
comes back, you're there.
Nickel inventory is super valuable, and there will be a time when nickel comes back, and it'll be as simple in that mine as, okay, let's go and fire that stope. Because one of the things that's not understood well about beta hunt is the gold and the nickel are not intermingled. They're not.
Wow.
No, they're quite they sit quite separately. So if, for argument's sake, the nickel price went crazy today, and we wanted to mine some nickel, that's one phone call. There's stopes there that have been drilled which haven't been fired. We'd go back into different parts of the mine. So that flexibility around revenue in that asset is quite unusual, and that was a real appeal of why we went so hard at Beta Hunt, because it had the scale that Westgold aspires to. This mine is our largest mine now. Its location, in Kambalda, making Kambalda great again. That's going to be a separate T-shirt, another hat. But the mineral endowment in that area is decades, hundreds of years deep and long. We saw the asset as being run for probably over a decade by a multitude of companies who are underfunded to drill it, and so we knew that that's something which in the new Westgold we could bring very quickly and do, and did that within 12 months. We added 2 million ounces of resource within Beta Hunt by doing nothing more than sending our drill teams down there and belting the hell out of this thing called Fletcher. So, there were some things that we thought we could bring to the asset which would transform it. What we knew was, this was, as you say, Josh, that's a 58-year-old mine. A lot of the infrastructure we've replaced lately is 58 years old, and it was long overdue for replacement. 100%. So anyway, it's looking really good underground there now. It's got a lot of new infrastructure in it, whether it be pumping or ventilation. We're setting this mine up now to continue for another multitude of decades. It's already run for 6 decades. There's no reason why that thing can't keep going for another 6.
What about the processing plant at Higginsville then? So I've never been there. Was it a nickel processing plant?
No.
Or no? It's always been historically
gold.
A gold processing plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
think
that makes things easy, doesn't it?
100%. I mean, I think this is the second mill that's been at Higginsville, and the weird part of the Westgold evolution is that Westgold, what we call the first part of this business, owned Higginsville. It owned Higginsville and the surrounds, and many of our staff worked at Higginsville many years ago, and then Westgold sold that version of Westgold, sold the Higginsville tenements to what became Karora. So
full circle, mate.
So it is another full circle moment, and people sort of said to me when we were announced the deal with Karora, well, aren't you just buying back stuff that you already owned? Going, well, yes, but that's not the game. What we didn't own was Beta Hunt. Beta Hunt, it was all about that mine, and in some sense we got Higginsville back for free. The joy of Higginsville was we didn't spend a lot of time on due diligence on Higginsville because we'd previously owned it, and we knew that the owners in between us were capital starved, so things wouldn't have improved. But when we got down there, we've been delighted by it. Things like the Two Boys Underground has made money every month since we took over in August 25. That mine now has 12 to 18 months life in front of it. It's our highest, it's small, but it's our highest grade mine in the portfolio, and it's driving us out towards Trident deposits. So, yeah, we really sort of got the Higginsville assets back, in my mind, for free, and there's great value to come from them.
Mate, cost and margin management.
Complete. Yep.
So,
great question.
Obviously you're working with the CFO. Who's the CFO?
Tommy Hing.
Tommy Hing.
Yeah.
You'll be working quite closely with him and making sure that costs are looked at. Margin is there.
Yep.
Be hard not to make a great margin in the current mining sector.
And that is absolutely right, Josh, but that is a double-edged sword. I mean, we sold gold on Monday this week at $7,001. We put in
I saw 7,011. I was just like, what's happening here?
We were cheeky. We put in a sell order above where the spread was at 7,001, and it got hit on Monday. And I said to the CFO, I go, man, can you believe this? Because I remember when Aussie gold broke 2,500, him and I high-fiving each other going, we never thought we'd see 2,500 Aussie gold in our lives, and the business was going through that transformation phase, and that was a that was a cracking price.
Yeah.
Well, now
I remember when it got to 5,000. I was just like, this is insane.
we're in uncharted territories, but being in that uncharted territories can be really dangerous because the revenue stream is strong, everyone's looking good because the gold price is so high, but the real focus has to be on costs. Yep. So we are very conscious within Westgold that for us, we've now got a business of scale. We know we can produce the ounces, but it's all about the cost and the margin. And there'll be times whereby we go, okay, we have the opportunity to maybe shrink our margin because we can generate a much larger financial impact on the business. But very much where we're driving the business from 26 onward, it's about costs. Historically, we've been very high. We've been amongst the higher cost of the Aussie operators.
Why was that?
And a lot of that was the way we were structured. We had most of our peers run a hub and spoke model, whereby the hub is the processing hub and the mines are the spokes. We've had a lot of really long spokes in our business, and the trick is to try and have much bigger hubs to drive your processing costs down and much shorter spokes, meaning you need bigger mines closer to your big mills. So we're really
diesel transport is horrific. You know, upkeep of roads and everything that goes along with it.
It's not even just cost. I mean, haulage is something which all the Australian miners will be screaming about. Now, even though diesel the price is up and down, the cost of haulage with these long hauls is excessive.
Yep.
How do you break that? Have mines that are closer to your mills and do that. So the focus for us, key to that, is get our mills, expand our mills to lower our operating costs in our mills, and get mines where the outputs are higher, so the unit costs are smaller.
Yep.
So really acutely aware that this is a time in the market whereby, and we just think back to a few years ago to the nickel players or the lithium players having a nice time because the nickel price was high or the lithium price was high, and then boom, something happens in the world which resets the commodity price, and all of a sudden, probably standing naked because the tide's gone out. For us, this is the time where we got to drive our cost base down, and the process is very much simplify the business, focus on productivity and efficiency, and with that will come higher margin.
Beautiful. Awesome that we've got to hear because markets, ASX and capital. Now, Westgold is one of the very few companies that is fully unhedged.
Yep.
For some of our viewers, and also just dive right into that. What's the benefit for me as well? Look, I'm just not a very smart bloke. I'm just a sparky, but a genuine interest nonetheless. Hedged versus unhedged. Why are companies hedging, and what's the benefit of being unhedged?
It's a really good question. Hedging is one of those much maligned terms where some people say the word hedging and they freak out. Probably the best way to explain the story is, why is Northern Star hedged and Westgold unhedged? Hedging is often something which, as a mine operator or company operator, is forced upon you by bankers. If you're loaning someone else's or you're borrowing funds for a large capital project and you need to loan that money from a bank, they're going to want security. And for them, in some sense, the hedging is a security.
Okay.
So you are guaranteed, you are locking in a price to sell that gold, and then the banks will on-sell that multiple times, and that's where they make a margin on hedging. So why is
doing all right? Banks will be doing all right for themselves bloody well now, won't they?
Completely.
Oh.
So often as a company operator, you may not have any choice about hedging depending on where the market is in terms of debt. So if you want debt to build a processing plant or start a mine, depending on what the market's like for debt, if the market is tight for debt, they'll force you to hedge because you've got no choice. But if the market for debt is really I won't say the word loose, is buoyant, there's plenty of debt around but no one wants it, then maybe you can negotiate loans where you have no hedging. So we had a debt facility in place recently up for $300 million. It was unhedged, no mandatory hedging. How do we get to that point? We negotiated that, let's call it the credit card, at a time when we had plenty of cash. So the banks had no leverage on us. So we went, if you want us to loan us some money, we'll take it, but with no hedging. So Northern Stars
But you're still paying interest on those loans and things like that.
completely.
So interest,
But
I wouldn't know what an interest payment on $300 million is, but
I'm
hard
just
to
thinking
ignore it.
about it now. When we did that, Josh, we might have signed that agreement in 2024. If we were forced to hedge that that facility, I'm guessing that we would have been selling gold at 3,000. And there's plenty of our peers now who have got hedge books who are selling into are locked into a price of 27 to 3,300 gold. So, like I said, we sold gold on Monday at 7,000. So if you've got a hedge line that you're having to feed at, and you are only receiving, say, $3,000 Aussie for that ounce, but the current market price is 7,000, that's going to cause you some pain. So why are we unhedged? I mean, our view was we didn't have any big capital projects in the pipeline. We had them, but we were fully funded to do it. We didn't need to lock away big debt facilities which needed to be hedged. The debt market was in a place where if you were strong enough financially, you could negotiate, go no hedging, not doing that, and you could get the debt. So I mean, our approach is really, I see in some sense hedging as a little bit of financial engineering. It doesn't help the company per se. Very much is protecting the debt provider, and I'm more concerned about my shareholders than the debt provider. So we've been unhedged now for probably 2 years, and so
Congratulations.
we are exposed to an upward gold price,
$7,001.
But look, so for us, we talk about hedging as a board, and maybe this is some insight for your listeners too. We talk about hedging at a board level every month, and so we're not closed-minded to hedging. There may be a time when it's required, but the only time it would be required is if there's a large capital project which needs to be secured, or we have some higher cost pits which we really want to guarantee the revenue stream for. But look, I'm a pretty simple person. My view is our best hedge in this gold market is to keep our costs low, and that is a far more useful tool than a hedge with a third party.
Yeah, they keep the investors happy.
Yeah, at the moment, back to the markets. I mean, no one knows. Can you tell me what the gold price is going to be tomorrow?
I mean, I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be up.
Well, this is it. I mean, I sort of look at it from that level as well. I go, I could never in my wildest dreams imagine that we would be selling gold at 7,000 or 6,900, 7,000 Australian dollars. But could that 7,000 be 5,000 tomorrow? Possibly, but what could drive that? In my macroeconomic view of the world, the only thing that could drive a collapse of the gold price is world peace. I'm just not sure that's where that's going to happen
it's
anytime
on the radar
soon.
anytime soon, is it? Nah.
Yeah. And that's probably a nice segue in some sense. I mean, as a CEO of a gold company, but as a human, I feel a bit conflicted. Like I wake up every morning and look at the gold price and go, wow, we sold gold at what? $7,001? That's really good for the business. But what does that say about the world? So there's the flip side where, gold is a currency. It's a natural hedge in some sense against geopolitical instability. And I think you can see now the world, central banks, mums and dads out the front of ABC Bullion in Sydney, how are they feeling about the world? They're buying physical silver, they're buying physical gold. Central banks are buying physical gold. So, this is in the short to medium term, I think gold's a great place to be.
Segue straight into investor sentiment.
Sure.
So, before we do that, I do want to, speaking of investor sentiment, last year I know we spoke about it briefly, but last year when I saw you speak at Diggers and Dealers, I thought you were fantastic, Wayne. Absolutely. You were
too kind, Josh. Absolutely too kind. That is
so relaxed. Yeah. You got all the information across. Yeah. There was a heap of other corporate types that were there, and while they were speaking, and I obviously wouldn't go into people or companies, a little bit of lackluster, a little bit of, I was sitting in the seat thinking, mate, knock your chin up, puff your chest out, and tell the investors, tell the shareholders, speak to the people and tell them the truth.
Yep.
You know, say, this is where we're at. This didn't happen. We were aiming for this. But, yeah, did you watch a few of them? Do you know what I'm referencing?
Completely. And like the year before, I remember standing up there, and it was, I think, literally a day or two post finalising the Karora acquisition. And we were like absolutely fatigued. We'd been working on this thing night and day for 3 or 4 months. And I remember getting up and going, okay, I'm really excited because we've now got the keys to this thing, but now we have to deliver.
Yep.
And just sort of got up and told a story about why we were so interested in Karora. You know, the diggers just gone past. It was like, you know, there was a lot of things that happened within Westgold, good and bad, and we just got up and I thought we just explained it.
Did a great job.
You know, we guided down last year after, you know, we had some hiccups at Meekatharra and Kambalda, and which impacted our full year guidance. But you got to own that stuff. But getting back to your point about the investors, and I cheekily say this to some fund managers, look, you know, when they're giving myself and the CFO and the COO a flogging over either missing a deadline or something, I go, and can be cheeky. Some don't like it. I say, look, does this mining thing look simple behind your spreadsheet? He goes, yeah. I said, you should get out of your Sydney office and come to an underground mine and see what goes on. These are high-tech businesses. They are complex. And guess what? What do we get paid to do? In some sense, we get paid to manage chaos. Now, maybe I've embellished a little bit there, but things go wrong in mining. What we get paid to do is make decisions such that when something goes wrong, we fix it and recover quickly.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I think, you know, diggers, in some sense, is a forum whereby marketing 101, know your audience. Don't kill them with technical data. What they want to, what most of the people in the room are either not technical. What they want to hear is they want to see the management or the leadership, see whether they can tell the story and be told a story of, okay, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and that's about as complicated as it is. But be proud. I mean, we've all in these businesses, we have great days and we have bad days. You just got to keep fronting up every day and deal with whatever has been dealt.
Looking forward, Wayne, the next 12 months for Westgold, you know, you've done amazing things.
I know
the last 12 months.
My team, again,
for sure. I know. I'm just speaking
the
for
team
you.
that sits behind me is about 1,800 strong. I'm the one telling the story. The high vis army.
And what a great story.
Are doing the heavy lifting.
Yep. What does the next 12 months look like, mate?
Look. We're in a great place with Westgold now. I wake up every day, jump out of bed, and I'm like, now.
Are you living close to the beach? Are you surfing in the morning?
No, living in Como now. I can see the water, but there's only waves on the river down there from the wind, which I'm okay with. But you know, for the next 12 to 24 months with Westgold, I think what you're going to see is the business, in some sense, gets simpler to understand, and the outputs start to increase. We know we've now got a business in the Murchison and a business in the Southern Goldfields that has scale.
Yep.
The real challenge for us now is to optimise this business for free cash. Don't get fixated on production at all costs. It has to be profitable ounces. And look, the margin will shrink and grow, but with the focus very much on let's focus on cash. The cash doesn't lie. And every quarter we go to some trouble to explain where our cash balance is, because we know commodities go up and down. If the gold price drops to whatever a bad number looks like in gold, this company will be well funded, well positioned to take advantage of those who are not prepared.
Yep.
So I mean,
so you're going to acquire. You're looking at some M&As in the future.
Well, we're really already in that process now, Josh. But we're in the D phase. I mean, I call it MAD. You know, merger, acquisition, and divestment. This is a great time to be divesting assets, and we showed the market with the sale of Mount Henry. I mean, the headline for that was $64.6 million to Alicanto. So this is a time to clean up our portfolio, give some of these assets a chance with someone else, or do things like Valiant, whereby the ore can come back in the next 12 months.
How does that go with toll treating?
Yeah.
For like obviously you've got your own tons up the belt.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be bringing Valiants in.
Yeah. So it's a really good question. You know, there's something really smart I think we did last year was do this deal with a little junior called New Murchison. Really liked
New Murchison Gold. Beautiful.
Alex Passmore and his team were drilling this Crown Prince thing 33 Ks from us, and we really liked the look of this thing. But so we took a placement in New Murchison, and we said to Alex, "You've got two options here as explorer. You can go down a path to build your own processing plant, and in WA that could be a 3 to 5 year journey. I mean that with approvals and environmental approvals, native title, heritage, getting the funding. There's a path, a traditional path. Go to a bank, loan some money, or we will offer you an ore purchase agreement whereby you don't need to build a processing plant and wait 5 years for a revenue. You can have a revenue pretty quickly because here we are at Meekatharra with the Bluebird or the Meekatharra hub will give you access to that. So we don't toll treat per se. We actually buy their ore. They deliver it to surface. Or they deliver it to us. We pay them the cash. We get the ounces. So for us, it's a bit of a different view of the world whereby I'm quite agnostic about where the ounces come from. We want more ounces. And if we can get those ounces from someone else who's mining them and they take the mining risk, great. Valiant will be the same. Valiant will basically have an ore purchase agreement whereby they can deliver the ore to us. We get the ounces, they get the cash to put back into their mines and to continue to explore. So I think we'll try and do some more of these deals whereby we don't have to own and operate everything. I think that adds complexity to the business. But in certain areas, we're happy to work with others like we've shown with New Murchison and what we'll show with the creation of Valiant. But back to your key point, the real focus is about organic growth. The portfolio, we're still finding assets within the portfolio that haven't been touched. So our focus really for growth within our 3 years is the things that we already own. We don't need to look over the fence to increase the scale of this business. We can do it organically. I mean, we might peek over occasionally to see what's going on, but focus is very much clean up the portfolio, divest the things which there are others who can do it better. And if those things can deliver additional ore source to our mills, that's a win. Because in the gold sector, I see now the companies with the milling capacity have the strategic power. Still today, trying to build a mill.
I spoke to Ashok Paresh the other day, and he was saying the same thing.
Yep.
You've got, and there are a few other companies, like Kirkalocker's looking at starting back up.
Yep.
I was out visiting a client, or probably December.
Yep.
And time flies over that Christmas break, Wayne? You lose track of it.
Completely.
But I was out at Forestania, and I drove past, and I hadn't seen it before, but I drove past IGO's Cosmic Boy nickel processing plant. And it's a monster. And I just thought, driving past it, I said to Dimitri, I said, that would make a bloody ripper gold processing plant.
Sure.
Why are they not doing it?
And Ashok and Horizon are looking at these things now, and that's good for Western Australia. Having millions of dollars of capital sitting, rusting in the sun all across the countryside, a little bit of lateral thinking can see those things restart pretty quickly, and away we go.
They did that with Black Swan. They did that with Black Swan, turned into a gold processing plant, didn't they? It was originally a nickel processing plant. I'm pretty bloody sure. So that would be fantastic. There's so many options, and having a processing plant is key.
Completely. I mean, I call it the cash register, making those things bigger and turning faster to generate more ounces. That's good for our shareholders.
For sure. It's gold bars out the gold room.
Yeah, completely. Again, selling gold at the moment, it's not hard. Producing it is always difficult, but the trick is to try and produce it safely and at the right margin, which is very much about getting on top of your costs.
Wayne, last one from me. I need the best piece of advice that you've ever heard or given.
Ooh, okay. There's two bits there.
Go. So
I think the best piece of advice I was given as a much younger man is you don't get what you don't ask for.
I love that. Oh, Wayne, I love it.
Right. So that, and I think that the second one I give to young people is to young professionals, whether they're young professionals or just people brand new to the sector. And, Westgold is really good now at bringing people who are not from the mining sector into the business. And I say the same thing to them as I say to the new graduates. Just back yourself here. Be the person that says yes. Even if you don't have the skills to do it, if one of your supervisors, within reason, or one of your leaders asks you to do something, so yeah, I'll have a crack at that. Be upfront. Go, look, I don't have the full skills to do this, but if you show a level of humility and commitment to having a go,
Yep.
this sector is really good at transferring its knowledge. But it's quite selective. If and I've been lucky to work with a lot of far more intelligent people than me who, because I was either young enough or dumb enough or committed enough to have a crack, they sort of went, okay, look, not doing that right, but you're having a go.
Yep.
Let me show you how to do it right. But
how important
that relationship thing is largely built by being prepared, knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know, but being prepared to sort of stretch yourself into. That's the key advice I give young people in the business coming through, that this industry is a great industry to be in. It can create opportunities for you can't imagine. It can take you to places you've never been,
yep.
but it's a two-way street. If you commit to it,
you'll get out what you put in.
100%.
But
much better.
The amount of guests that we've had on the show,
and
they say the same thing. It's never a truer word spoken. Say yes. Say yes. Give it a crack. Give it a red hot crack. Nothing more Australian than that, I don't reckon.
Yeah, because it's not about the word failure in my mind has such a negative connotation to young people. Failure is a real consequence of having a go.
Yeah.
And having a go in some sense and not getting the perfect result is still a better result than not having a go at all. So look, this concept of I try and instill in my executive team and new people to the business. This is an industry where, and I'm I guess a prime example. No background, no history in the sector, no family connections, but it's given me an opportunity and my wife to travel the world, see things we would never have seen, be given opportunities a boy from Willetton should never have been given, but was said yes to stuff, and that provided a journey which I wouldn't change a day of.
Beautiful, mate. That's fantastic. Well, Wayne, look, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Again, I learned a whole heap. The Westgold story, what an amazing adventure. Yeah. So I know you don't think this, but they're bloody lucky to have you at the helm. I did see last year in a report that you got a decent bloody salary increase, which you bloody well deserve.
Look, the jury's out on that, Josh, but there's a lot more to be done in this company, and I'm fortunate I've got a board and an operating team who are very committed. They know what the size of the prize is here. They know this business is on a different trajectory now, and and most of them are very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, beautiful.
And they're having a red hot go.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Thanks very much, Wayne. Much appreciated.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Look, we'll maybe get you back in 12 or 18 months' time, and be able to let the viewers know where Westgold is. That'd be amazing.
Be a lot of interesting things to talk about.
There's no doubt about it.
Thanks, Josh.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for tuning into this amazing episode. It was bloody phenomenal getting Wayne after a number of months of putting the pressure on. We got him in the studio. So thanks very much for tuning into this episode. Catch you next time.